Over. I'll look for a motion to approve the consent agenda for tonight.
So moved.
Support. All right, any questions on any? No? Okay. Sue?
Councilmember Salzweedl?
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic?
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers?
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield?
Yes.
And Mayor DeVore?
Yes. Citizen discussion for items not on tonight's agenda. All right, old business, number 4, letter A, adult use marijuana. Mike.
At our last city council meeting, citizens shared concern about lighting requirements in the draft regulatory ordinance. City administration did look into this matter further, and we can report this language came from ordinances in California and Colorado. Those states have energy restrictions as there are issues with energy transmission, especially in California. After we reviewed this further, city administration will recommend striking that from the proposed ordinance. Jessica was supposed to be here tonight, but it was sort of a change of plans. But I want to bring it to your attention an issue that we learned of in the last couple of weeks. According to the new state law for adult use marijuana, the draft rules, or the emergency rules, and is reiterated as its policy by the state recently, for the first 24 months after the state begins accepting adult use recreational marijuana license applications, which will be on November 1st, only certain applicants will be considered for applications. They'll be moved to the front of the line for recreational licenses. The other 2 will have to wait until the initial first 24 months period is expired, and unless the state makes some changes. But specifically for the first 24 months, the state will only process recreational license applications for Class A growers or micro businesses from persons who are Michigan residents. 2, for retailers, processors, Class B growers, Class C growers, and secure transporters only from persons who already have a medical marijuana license. 3, for safety compliance facilities from any applicant. A potential applicant expressed concern about number 2. The suggestion was that if the city decided to opt in to allow medical marijuana, also those applications could be processed during the first 24-month period at the state level. That is a possibility, as the state still can opt in and out and could adopt a medical marijuana regulatory framework on a track almost parallel to its recreational regulatory timeline. Understand a couple things. So what this basically means is that if they have a facility now, it doesn't matter where in the state, they're eligible. But if they don't have a facility, from our understanding, they have to wait 24 months.
Why?
Because they have to already had a medical marijuana license. That's who gets first crack at the licenses.
All right, well, completely different license. I don't know.
They're getting first crack at them is what the state's doing. So the question was if you wanted to, you could. This may we don't know because we haven't gotten applications yet, but you could consider to opt into medical as well. The only problem with that is one. Well, first off, you've already opted out of the medical. The second is that we don't know if this will impact anyone who's looking to have businesses. We really don't know. And really, third, more from a logistical standpoint, administratively, I think really having to develop a whole separate set of ordinances for medical, just when we've already opted into the recreational, I think it would be, from an administrative standpoint, I would rather not have to deal with it. I would rather just deal with the recreational adult use marijuana myself. Also, those people already have facilities, so they already have proven track records. You may come into a situation where they haven't been approved for their medical yet. They may not have been through the process. They don't know.
Okay. Sorry. Number 1, we opted out of medical because there's no local control. That has not changed. That is still exactly the same at a state level.
Correct.
Number 2, what if somebody has a medical license and if they're just terrible, they still get first crack? My concern is that we have limited number of places that these businesses can go, and we have to give first crack to medical marijuana, which we don't even have, and then we run the risk then of losing out on a better applicant because they didn't get first crack at the limited number of spots we have available.
Right. And understand, this is all done, this is
No, I
in
know,
our
no,
control,
no,
this is all done at
yep,
the
yep,
state.
yep, yep.
So it was,
I just
we
have-
felt the need that we had to bring this to your attention before we were to take action. I think we're at the point now where your next council meeting, you can take action if you so choose. I think we've been through the recreational ordinance enough, and also through the zoning ordinance. I think we've addressed pretty much all of it, and you could take action, but we still felt the need that we at least had to tell you about this. And if it was something you wanted to go back and consider, that is your option.
I only speak for myself, obviously, not the other 4 people up here, but I don't think anything has changed with medical marijuana where I would want to change what we've already decided. Plus, if there's,
So if somebody does come in and they already have license,
They've already been
we
approved.
have to give them a first choice.
no,
the state does.
State.
Lara does.
They have to come through our process and meet the standards of our process. If they can't meet our standards, they don't get issued anything from the
So
city.
nobody who doesn't have medical marijuana is going to be considered for 2 years no matter what?
If they don't already have their medical marijuana license, correct.
I
That
don't-
may change, but as of right now, that's how the state is doing
Okay,
it.
but I don't understand how that makes sense at a state level. Like, they're in this licensing game to make money, right? Now you're telling these people you don't have to pay us for 2 years, whatever. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense, but things that happen in Lansing rarely make sense to me. So, I don't know how everybody else feels, but I don't see any need to revisit the medical marijuana thing.
I would agree. I mean, this has already been enough of a strain on staff, and good job by the planning commission working through the zoning stuff, and I think we're closer at a point we can improve this, and it does set us back a couple years from a revenue standpoint, potentially from some of the licensees, but there probably will still be interested parties that will apply, and we'll just have to let the markets separate it out, sort it out.
That there's nobody that sees the need to revisit medical marijuana, is that? Okay.
We'll make the modification to the ordinance pertaining to the lighting, and then at your next council meeting, you can take that if you so choose.
Dick, is there any talk about that 2-year thing being challenged?
No, it's actually part of a regulation that the state has adopted. There is a 1-year look-in, so after the first 12 months, the state has agreed to review it. And if they feel it's important to issue more licenses, then they could exempt and then begin accepting licenses from everyone.
Thank you. Anything else for Mike or Dick on marijuana? City income tax update, Mike.
We've held 2 of the 3 informational meetings already. We're going to talk about an issue that came from those meetings in a few minutes. I think we've had about 15 to 20 residents at each meeting. Been pretty well attended, pretty well received. Obviously, there's opinions on both sides of the argument, but I think the conversations have been civilized. So I don't see it being, I haven't seen it being that type of an issue, but we've tried to really we really try to explain to them as simply as we can what the problem is and what the possible solution is. And I think the people who've attended for the most part have been appreciative of that. We do have one more meeting. It would be on Wednesday, October 16th at 6 p.m. right in this room. Also, in the last couple of weeks, we have worked on a video. We do have it working. I want to show it to the council. We did a video with Full View Productions. They did the video for the school district for the millage, and I think it came out really good. So I want everyone to see it real quick.
For the bond, right?
For their millage, yes. Their bond.
Cliff, did you sign a release? I don't think I did.
I
wanted to see it before we
I was still fighting my bicycle kicking.
You did a nice job, I will tell you.
fighting your bicycle.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Which one's Cliff? to collect an income tax in order to repair roads and streets. The roads are not in good shape. 91% of our streets in the city are either rated fair or poor.
Yeah,
And of that, 67% are rated poor. The city receives their street funding for gas taxes. And the gas taxes, the way it's set up, are very restricted in how those funds can be used. And at the end of the day, does not give us very much money for street improvements. Property taxes that people pay, very little of that amount actually goes to city streets. So the city council looked at a number of different options, including cutting essential services, looking at selling assets, looking at closing parks, libraries, things of that nature that could decrease the quality of life in the community, and none of those were palatable to the council. They felt that the city income tax in most cases was less than a dedicated road millage for most people, and felt that that would bring us a pretty good amount of what we need to improve the streets in the city.
The main reason that I'm in favor of the income tax versus just a dedicated street millage is that the street millage puts all the burden on citizens of Lowell, businesses and residents of Lowell, I should say. Several large employers in Lowell and their employees go up and down our roads at least 5 times a week, sometimes more. And by doing an income tax, we're sharing the burden with the people who are using the roads, not just people who live here or own businesses.
People are coming to city council meetings, they stop you on the street and say, when are you going to fix the roads? It is probably our number one complaint is the condition of the roads. The roads are in bad shape. Fortunately, a couple of the main roads, Main Street is taken care of by the state of Michigan, and Hudson, the main north-south artery, is a county road. So the roads that a lot of the people see are not as bad as some of the residential side streets. I have had a few customers say that, you know, their friends won't come visit them because the roads are so bad, they're worried about it beating up their cars. Putting patches on top of patches is just not a good situation, which is what we've been doing.
We're trying to solve the problem. Tons of small towns, even big places like East Lansing had to adopt a city income tax because they couldn't cut services anymore and people were complaining about the roads. It seemed like the best option available.
We looked at raising the millage rate, but unfortunately our millage rate is already fairly high and we are limited to what we can do.
If we asked the Kent County Sheriff's Department to watch over Lowell, it would only save us about $200,000. As a resident and as an owner of a small jewelry store, I appreciate having policemen readily available. In fact, I had an incident not too long ago in which one of the members of our police force helped me out quickly and we got an issue resolved. I frankly thought maybe selling light and power would be a good idea until I looked into it and realized all the ramifications. And as the most recent storm shows, we had a couple little blips in Lowell. Power outages very short, but there are people in Grand Rapids, Consumers Power, customers that are friends of mine that had power out for a couple of days. The short-term gain that we would realize by selling it would be more than offset by the losses, in my opinion.
If the income tax is passed by voters, the city will lower the property millage 5 mils from its current 15.7 mils to a do not exceed number of 10.7 mils over the 15-year life of the income tax.
Lowell's very desirable and property values are on the increase, but nice roads just improve everybody's assessment of whether they want to live in Lowell or not. So I think it's a good thing. Please remember to vote on November 5th.
Thanks for giving thoughtful consideration to the city income tax, and remember to vote on November 5th.
Boy, they edited the heck out of that.
I have you two going around. The roads aren't any better in Hollywood.
So that's where we're at this time.
All right, any questions for Mike for the movie stuff?
Even though I didn't appear in that video, I wholeheartedly agree with what they had to say, is that this is the most economical way to get our streets fixed. And so, even though I couldn't attend the first 2 meetings, I'm 100% behind this income tax.
100%. All right, fire authority proposal, I guess, is me. So I emailed that proposal out to you guys. So, it sounds like at the township meeting, they tabled it, so they can go back to the fire authority with some questions that their board had, so I thought tonight, I'll just take any questions that you guys have, and we'll take them back.
Lowell tabled it?
Township, yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know what Virgin's did. Rob, do you know what Virgin's did? No, I don't either. I don't know what.
I heard they approved it.
So did I, when I talked to them.
I heard they voted it down originally, and then I talked to Carl, Blau, and Jerry, and they both said that they tabled it because Jerry was in Minnesota. That's what I heard.
Jim made it sound like they approved it.
Jim. Because I originally heard that they voted it down, so I called Carl to ask him, and he said that their board had a ton of questions, so they tabled it, that they didn't even move on it. So,
And I believe the way it was set up at the fire authority, that 2/3 need to approve it to
yeah.
move forward.
Yep. If 2 of the 3 municipalities approve it, then it goes through, and the third one is just along for the ride. But the way the motion was made, it's an all or nothing proposal. We can pick and choose what parts of the consultant apply to us. We have to take the thing as a whole. So I think that was what the township had some questions on. So you guys have anything that you want me to get clarification on before?
I did happen to attend the last fire authority meeting, and I made a statement there that we're not trying to micromanage the fire department, and I think Ron and the guys do a great job. But before we wade into a long-term commitment that is going to be a couple of $1 million or more over 10 years, that we owe it to our taxpayers to have somebody that's a little bit smarter than us to at least look at this and make a recommendation, is it needed or not, to go to a full-time department.
Yeah.
I just feel I don't know enough about this to make an educated decision without some help.
Yeah. I'd be fully 100% supportive if that's what we were getting, but we're getting so much more. Look at, what if this consultant comes back and says, well, we have tall downtown buildings, we need an aerial truck, then we're gonna pay for that? Or if they come back and say, you need full-time, 4 guys, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, then we're gonna pay for that too? Or they come back and say, MFR is not sufficient for your community's needs, you need to become a basic or a medic department, then we gotta pay for that too. There's so much in this proposal that we don't need. It'd be a lot easier to just have somebody come in and say, and work with Ron and the guys and say, yes, you need full-time, or no, you don't. But Sparta did this, and they had a lot of problems with it. Who was the other one? Allendale? Did they do it too? No? They didn't use them? So, I don't know. If they were just coming in and saying, yep, you guys need full-time during the day, or you don't need full-time during the day, I'd be fine with it, but they're gonna pick this department apart for absolutely no reason, is my opinion. But we can talk about it at the next meeting, after the next fire authority meeting.
Mike, these are only recommendations, right? It's not that we have to accept it or move forward with it at this time, right?
The motion that Tim Wittenbach made was for all the municipalities to vote on it, and then go back to the fire authority, and if 2 of the 3 municipalities vote yes, it goes through. So all 3 would have to pay for it regardless.
That's just the $20,000
Right.
consultant.
The consultant, right.
Right.
Right, so when this consultant comes back with 100 other things,
Can you narrow the scope?
no, the motion was made.
I mean,
When we get it back, you mean?
if we get to the point where we're hiring the consultant, can we just say our main questions are boom, 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 so they don't get off on a tangent with a...
I would think so, but every direction that we've been led in leads me to believe that that's not an option. They want it, how they want it.
So they want to do a full consult of everything that they proposed or said that
They
they
want
want
to
to
go,
look into.
yep, they want to go through
Yes.
the operating guidelines, they want to go through the way they use equipment, buy equipment, licensing, all that stuff, which 100% doesn't need to be done.
So we'll bring this back in the November meeting?
No, the next October meeting. is
I-
second.
Could have swore when I talked with Jim Hurd, he was not having fire authority.
Well, it's, the township thinks we need to, and I think we need to, so.
Because I want to be in attendance for that, and that's why I called last time.
Even if, I'm gonna push for it, and I think Lowell Township, I don't know, I haven't talked to Carl about, because we just got the meeting cancellation today, so I haven't had a chance. But it sounds like the township board wants to have a meeting and gets their questions answered, so. I'll just move that we table it until the meeting on the 21st.
I'll support.
All right? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's tabled. Resolution 2919, the modification to Resolution 2419.
In June, the City Council approved Resolution 24-19 stating it was the City Council's intent to utilize funds generated from the city income tax to be used for street improvements after offsetting the equivalent of the 5 mils of revenue that was reduced and for the cost of administering the income tax. We shared this information with residents who attended the September 18th income tax informational meeting, and there was concern from those residents that this language may give the council the chance not to use the funds for street improvements. It was suggested that the resolution be modified to state that the income tax revenue shall be used for street improvements after offsetting the expenditures affected by the 5 mil reduction in income tax administrative costs. Resolution 2919 was drafted to make this suggested modification. This resolution would also avoid the action taken for Resolution 24-19. I'd recommend the Lowell City Council approve Resolution 29-19 as presented.
And the word "shall" was put in there through
It's,
talks with the public, and they were, okay.
they felt more comfortable with that. You were at the meeting.
Yeah, I was there.
Yeah.
Accountability?
Yep.
Okay.
And just to be clear, we added another term also, shall be used only.
Only, that's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, I'll look for that motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve Resolution 29-19 as presented.
I'll support.
All right, any other questions for Mike or Dick? Sue?
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yes.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield.
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
All right, chamber building lease, Michael.
The lease between the city and the Chamber of Commerce for the use of the building they operate in currently expires on April 30th, 2020. Over the summer, I've been working with Liz Baker regarding the renewal of the lease as directed by the City Council. We have a tentative agreement on the lease, and this would require City Council approval. The new lease would be for an additional 10 years beginning on May 1st, 2020, as this is the limit required per the city charter. The lease still remains $1 per year for use of the facility. This building will be used as is, and any improvements to it will be done at the Chamber of Commerce's expense. The only major difference to this lease and the previous lease is utility costs. The previous lease had a $200 monthly cap for utilities, meaning the city would cover, in some instances, the amount of utilities over this amount. Going forward, all utility expenses will be paid in full by the Chamber of Commerce. The lease is attached to this, and I recommend that the Lowell City Council approve Resolution 30-19 and approve a new leasing agreement with the Lowell Area Chamber of Commerce.
Where did the discussion with them buying the building go?
Well, if they wanted to come back and buy it, it would have to, basically what would have to happen is we'd have to file the guidelines of the city charter. We'd have to put an RFP out. They'd have to go through that process, and I mean, you could technically award it to them, but you still have to have that process. So you can't really, it's not like any other type of situation where you can have a first right of refusal. Our charter doesn't allow that.
Well, I don't want them to go anywhere, so I will make a motion that we approve Resolution 3019 and approve a new lease agreement with the Chamber.
I'll support.
Any other questions? Sue?
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
Councilmember Canfield.
Yes.
Mayor DeVore.
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yes.
Resolution 3119 revised as Resolution 819.
In February, the Lowell City Council approved Resolution 819, granting an industrial facility tax credit for 5 years to King Milling for the creation of their warehouse facility. Our application has been submitted to the Michigan Department of Treasury as required per the statute. The application is being held up by them because the following language is needed. And I'll read it for you. Whereas the aggregate state equalized value SEV of real and personal property exempt from ad valorem taxes within the city after granting the certificate will exceed 5% of an amount equal to the sum of the SEV of the property proposed to be exempt pursuant to the King Milling application, plus the aggregate SEV of property exempt under certificates previously granted pursuant to Act 198 and currently in effect. Resolution 31-19 has been drafted to correct the concern from Treasurer. We have debated this issue. The necessity of this language is not required in the state statute for several months with Treasury. However, Treasury has informed us they will not proceed without this language in a resolution. I'm recommending the Lowell City Council approve Resolution 31-19 as presented.
What does this language do? Anything? It doesn't affect anything?
Dick, you want to?
What it says, and what this is really adding a whereas to the resolution that you adopted previously. In that resolution, you made a determination that by granting tax abatement to King Milling, it wouldn't affect the ability for the city to deliver services. So, in answer to your question, no, it doesn't change anything because you've already made the determination that it will not have an impact. They wanted, for some reason, you to specifically acknowledge in your resolution that by granting this abatement, you exceeded a hypothetical 5% amount of SEV.
Okay.
Just remember, this is all captured by the DDA, so.
And this is gonna be the norm going forward, right? They're gonna want this
They may.
paragraph in there?
It seems like it.
Well,
Although there's no legal basis for it, but they.
it's a state, man, what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
All right, I'll look for that motion.
I make a motion for Lowell City Council to approve Resolution 31-19 as presented.
I'll support.
All right, any other questions for Mike or Dick? Sue?
Councilmember Canfield,
Yes.
Mayor DeVore,
Yes.
Councilmember Salzweedl.
Yes.
Councilmember Yankovic.
Yep.
Councilmember Chambers.
Yes.
All right, new business, item A, Suez presentation.
Our contract with Suez for operating our wastewater treatment plant expires on June 30th, 2020. The city will need to decide if we want to renew our contract, go out for bid, and/or consider bringing this task in-house. Michael Bowen, who's the regional manager from Suez, is here tonight to discuss what Suez provides for the city in regard to wastewater services and what they may be able to provide in the future. So I'm going to turn this over to Mike.
Thanks, Mike. First of all, I'd just like to say thank you for the long relationship we've had here. I've only been with the company for about a year and a half, but seeing these kind of relationships that last for a long time, they're rare. To see it is a good thing. So I'll get started. Basically, this presentation, we'll go through it as fast as possible. You guys got a lot of other city stuff you need to gear up for, but if you want to go ahead and go to the first slide, we'll talk about the first slide here, some of our corporate support that we provide on top of the local support. When I'm done with my session, Brian will come up and provide information on what we do locally for you guys as well. At the corporate level, we have legal reviews. In those legal reviews, we have, anytime we go and do the state comes in and does an inspection or does any kind of compliance issues, we have our legal team look at that and review that. Again, that's part of your fee already. That's not an additional charge. So you get some legal advice when it comes to responding to any of the regulatory agencies. Engineering, we have some engineers on staff. One of them is licensed in Michigan. And anytime we do any Part 41 stuff, which is a permit that we need to get to change anything at the wastewater plant, they provide that service for free as well, or not free, but it's part of our base rate. We have wastewater experts. One of our wastewater experts has a PhD in this stuff, is a guru. The other guy has, from the water side, has many chemistry degrees and stuff that, they can assist us with any kind of troubleshooting we have from the corporate level. We don't utilize these guys a lot, but they are available to us, and they have helped at a couple projects this year in Michigan. Public relations, anytime we have public relations issues that come up, we've had the PFAS issue come up at one of our other facilities, and we teamed up with the local community and our crew to make sure that we're responding to the media properly, making sure that there's one point of contact. And again, we have a team from our corporate level that assists us with that. We have educational programs that we provide to the local people, to people like myself that the company provides. There's funding opportunities that we find out throughout the industry that we will bring to you if we see those. It's just added benefit that we see all over the country. If something pops up, whether it's rural development money, whether it's different places we can get grants or money from, we'll bring that to you. Our human resource department basically is what it says it is. The human resources that provides all of our assistance for the employees. Accounting and finance, one of the big things they do with the local here is they make sure that we have a maintenance cap that we have to follow, and they're making sure that they send us the information to make sure we're tracking that maintenance that we're supposed to be taking care of and the monies that are assigned to that. We have an IT department that helps us with any kind of IT issues we have. They also do our phones. So again, these are just added things. The last two items there, our water technology solutions and our advanced solutions they're different departments in our company, but they provide, basically water technologies was GE Water they bought out, and they provide all kinds of water technologies. Now, would we use that here? Not necessarily, but what it does is it provides us with people that we can call with new technologies that are coming out to give us advice on stuff to bring to you guys. Advanced Solutions basically is a construction and major rehabilitation crew that we have. They can do any kind of major restorations that go out for RFP from you guys or anything that you guys need to have done like that. So anyways, that's our corporate level. Go to the next slide. Our regional team we have a regional manager, Dave Carter is his name. He's more of works out of our Illinois area. I'm the area manager. We have a area manager for our area HR manager, an EHS manager, which is environmental health and safety. And then we also have an MSG group, which is our mechanical services group that provide mechanical upgrades as well, that are usually smaller projects. So go ahead and advance. My role, I go through these a little fast. I'm basically the on-site support for Brian. I'm also the backup project manager in case anything ever happens to Brian or he goes out for a short time. Anything can happen, so we have backups. I have a wastewater license with the state of Michigan. I perform inspections on the site to make sure the quality is being done, taken care of, making sure the contract compliance is being taken care of. Our contract with you guys, we want to make sure that's followed as closely as we can to a T. And we have internal softwares and internal mechanisms that create checklists and verifications to make sure that's being done on a monthly basis. We do budget reviews every month with Brian to make sure he's following everything that needs to be done here at Lowell. I assist the EH&S manager sometimes with training, sometimes with the implementation of programs. I've actually done some inspections as well. Troubleshooting, if he needs troubleshooting help. I've operated many plants around the state of Michigan, and I've been involved with quite a few outside of the state. So anytime he needs any troubleshooting or process control stuff, we do a lot of talking about that, especially with the new industry that came in and started discharging at Lighthouse. There was a lot of discussion with that and how to approach that. I provide support to the project manager with reports, with permit renewals. I've done many of those myself. And again, we get the legal team involved with that kind of stuff as well to make sure that everything's put together properly. I'm available 24/7 unless I'm on vacation out of the country. I'm available to Brian anytime he needs me for advice, for support in any way I can. And then we also will help Brian respond to any of the regulatory stuff. And again, legal gets involved in that as much as possible to make sure that we're wording stuff properly but not get in trouble. And I know the lawyer over there probably make sure you guys don't get in trouble either. So, and then I also help with the capital improvement plan at the project here. Go to the next slide. The next slide is our HR manager. And again, most of this is pretty standard stuff. She helps out with any kind of employee issues. She helps out with any kind of new regulations and ordinances that come through to make sure we're following those that are associated with employees and employee right to know and stuff. She does any kind of resolutions as far as if there's any complaints that come through. She responds on site sometimes if she has to, if it's severe enough. And then she also assists with myself and the EH&S manager with training. In fact, one of the big things they've been working on that's coming out here in the next month or so is the violence in the workplace issue that's been going on. So we're trying to be, very proactive in addressing what to look for, what signs to see in people to possibly get them help and before, they get to the point where they lose control. We can go ahead to the next slide. Our EH&S manager, Gary Timmer. Gary used to be in my role as the area manager. He's been with the company for 20-something years, 27 years, I think, to be exact. But he took on this role, I think, a couple of years ago, if I recall. He basically handles anything that has to do with compliance and or safety. He provides the training. He provides, we have software that we have to, anytime we have an event, whether it's a safety issue or compliance issue, it has to be reported in there by Brian, by the local managers, and then that's tracked, and then we follow that, we respond to that. Gary will do on-site and an analysis of what happened, how can we avoid that, all that kind of stuff, to keep these guys safe, and it's to keep you guys safe here so there's no injuries at your facilities. He also does environmental compliance and awareness, again, accident investigation stuff, and then he's also our main liaison from the corporate standpoint. And then the next slide should be mechanical services group. We've done a couple small projects here. We consider those additional services, ASAs we call them. And with that mechanical services group, they'll come in and they'll usually provide a project at a lot lower cost, just because they're a supplemental group to our operational group. So they can come in and do that at a lot less cost than usually when you put out for RFP. In fact, we've gone out against other RFPs and usually we're substantially lower. They provide confined space entry personnel if we need that. We only have 2 people here. Typically, you like to see 3 people when you do those confined space entries. I'm also available for that, and then Gary does live in the, I think, Muskegon area, so he's available if we need that. Those guys are also available if we have mechanical questions. In those mechanical questions, I mean, sometimes the guys can do it themselves, and they just need some expertise and some tools in order to do that. And then the last is they're available for emergency situations if we have any emergencies that pop up. So other than that, I'll hand it over to Brian, and he'll tell you about the local stuff.
Thank you.
Well, mine's a little more scripted than Mike's is. I'm quick fire off the hip like he is. So he talked about some of the big picture things that Suez brings to the table. Now, how about something a little more local that you guys used to? In 1989, the city entered into a partnership with, at that time it was WW Operations Services, to run the wastewater plant. For over 30 years, this partnership has been very successful for everyone. Today, Wastewater Operations Services is known as Suez. So why did you guys go with contract operations? Due to compliance issues with the old wastewater plant, the city's inability to finance a new plant without assistance, the EPA took legal action against the city and issued a consent decree forcing the city to build a new wastewater plant. This created an adversarial relationship with both the EPA and the MDEQ, Michigan Department of Environmental Quality. The city and the MDEQ felt that hiring a private contractor to operate the new wastewater plant would help mend this relationship. So the city invested over $4.5 million in the wastewater plant and wanted to protect that investment by hiring a contractor that had established protocols for operations, maintenance, safety, laboratory procedures, etc. The city was also under pressure from the regulators for failing to implement the federally mandated IPP, Industrial Pretreatment Program, in a timely manner. This regulation became effective in 1986. As you'll know, we started operating in '89, so they were back by about 3 years. After implementing the IPP, the city began collecting surcharges from these industrial users that had amounted to hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years. These dollars had gone uncollected prior to '89. Also, the city tried to have their own superintendent, and it didn't work very well. So what are the benefits of contracting with us? For one, Suez is one of the top 2 contract operation firms in the country. Suez guarantees total compliance with all state and federal regulations related to wastewater treatment. If we cause a violation and there's a fine, we pay the fine. We also guarantee compliance with all relevant OSHA regulations. If there's an OSHA inspection and a citation is issued for something Suez is responsible for, we pay the fine. Our safety program at the wastewater plant is second to none. Over the years, we've received 3 state and 1 national award as recognition for our program, even though one of them was just a couple of months ago. The last time OSHA was in town, they inspected 4 city departments, and the wastewater plant was the only department that wasn't fined. We have complete staffing responsibility, including hiring, establishing work hours, HR activities, etc. In 2010, when I was hired, the city began saving approximately $15,000 per year when we took overall staffing responsibilities. Suez pays for all the costs associated with the operation of the plant, including electricity, natural gas, trash pickup, chemicals, hauling biosolids, office supplies, lab supplies, everything. Monthly, we process about 40 invoices, which is 40 invoices the city treasurer doesn't have to deal with. Payroll responsibilities, we handle all the payroll, so once again, the payroll clerk doesn't have to handle any of that. As part of the contract, we guarantee a monthly lump sum price. This allows the city to have better control over the budget. And it's worth noting that a fair amount of the lump sum does flow back into the city. Low light power, electricity being one of the biggest things. The electric bill is probably one of our biggest bills, and that's coming right back into the city. Small examples is at Bernard's Ace Hardware, Showboat, Self-Serve. We buy anything we possibly can right here in town. The lump sum over the last 30 years, base amount has gone up 85%. At the same time, inflation's gone up 103%. So we're constantly looking for ways to save the city money. By having Suez in the Lowell, City has access to the full complement of technical, operational, administrative stuff. A lot of things Mike mentioned. We've got about 2,300 employees nationwide, so we've got a ton of people we can tap into for different experience. We carry our own insurance coverage. Wastewater treatment plant is arguably the city's most valuable asset. Proper maintenance of that asset is absolutely critical. Because of this, we've used a computerized maintenance management system, CMMS, for the entire 30 years that we've been running here. Right now, we have about 200 pieces of equipment in that system, and we generate almost 2,000 work orders per year that we handle. And at this point, I don't know if there's any other city department that uses the CMMS. We also use a computerized water information management system called WIMS, like one of the technologies he talked about. Basically, everything we do there is tracked in it. All of our lab samples, all of our compliance, things that we have, all of our reports, annual, monthly, everything is tracked in there so as to not miss anything. Also, a list of events and organizations we've provided financial support for. Sizzling Summer Concert Series, River Walk, the Rotary, Chamber of Commerce, Relay for Life, Fire Department, schools, Boy Scout troops. We've contributed money to all those. So then what about the staff? We got staff of 3. Between the 3 of us, we got over 15 years of knowledge, and if we tap into Mark Month, we've got over 30 years of knowledge just of the plant. The pride of ownership that our staff has for this facility is very obvious, and it's somewhat of a rare commodity. Quite often you'll hear me or Cody talk about our plant or my plant, because honestly that's what we think of it as. As mentioned earlier, when we first started operating the facility, the relationship with the regulators was quite a bit different. Today we enjoy an excellent relationship with the regulatory community. When our previous district, DEQ district person, took her current job, her boss specifically said, go out to the Lowell wastewater plant, have them teach you about wastewater because that's how a plant's supposed to be run. We have a good relationship with the two IPPs, Industrial Pretreatment, Boulders and Lighthouse. Also, as far as the staff goes and community involvement, I'm the representative of the Chamber of Commerce. Cody is on Rotary, so between those two things and all the stuff we volunteer for, with that, there's a lot of community involvement. So what does the city get? Professional, compliant, award-winning operation that preserves the city's assets. Extra services beyond the day-to-day operation of the plant. Professionally run operation that has saved the city money, enhanced city revenues. Professional management that has been very diligent about cost containment so that increases have been far below the rate of inflation. Let me conclude with these thoughts. Please know that although SUA is a for-profit company, earning a profit is not a guarantee. Any money we make is a result of managing the operation and maintenance so that the expenses meet established budgets and targets. It's also the result of SUA being able to leverage our company's size in order to get preferred pricing of goods and services that the city would not be able to get for themselves. For us, profit's not a markup on cost, but rather a reward for successful management. If we fail to provide successful management or satisfactory services, it's possible that no profit or even a dollar loss could occur. It's this risk-reward penalty process that ensures the city efficient and effective management, maintenance, and operation services. So I hope you can see the value of partnering with us, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
So we don't need action on this? right?
No action, just wanted to present to you. Pretty soon we'll probably have to come back to you and decide what we want to do going forward, but wanted to at least give Sue as the opportunity to explain what they do.
All right. Any questions for Brian or Mike? No? All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you. Resolution 3219, adopting the local pavement warranty.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you tonight with my item is the pavement warranty program. Back in 2015, the state of Michigan put together legislation that requires communities to adopt communities with a local road agency to adopt a warranty program for streets, for new paving or new concrete. The state, MDOT, and LTAP got together with a Blue Ribbon Committee and put together criteria for a program such that everyone in the state can adopt. The overall goal was to have one method so that everybody is doing the same thing with these paving contractors and everyone's on the same page, so when we have streets that are built either with asphalt or concrete, that everyone's going to receive the same materials and have the same expectations of how they want them built. The warranty program must be adopted by every community, and then every community must consider how they want to do the warranty. The requirement is such that any projects over $2 million that are funded by state or federal dollars must have a warranty program. From there, if it's a project for less than $2 million, that's funded by state or federal, or projects that are totally funded by some other mechanism other than state or federal, the local agency could choose if they want to do a warranty program on them. But either way, any projects like that must be reported back to the state, to the street administrator when he does the Act 51 paperwork back every year. There's several parts to the program. There's that documentation that has to be included in any contracts that take place for road work. There's boilerplate language, which I included in the packet. There's specifications for concrete roads. There's specifications for HMA or hot mix asphalt, which I included in the package so you can see